We are continuing on with our How to Grow series, where I talk about individual plants or flowers, just to give as much information as I can. Like I said, being a flower farmer, when I was brand new, it was very overwhelming to sort of take in all the information. So I found it beneficial to just sort of take things one thing at a time. So today's flower is Statice, and here I've got some of my dried ones to show you, just to show you some of the contrasting colors, because I have found that the blue, which is this purple one right here, is not my favorite to pair with. You can see this pastel one here is a little bit softer and more muted, less harsh. This one has not been my favorite. And there again, we can see some of the pastel tones a little bit more muted, whereas this Seeker Blue just sort of steals the show, in my opinion. I don't plan to grow this one again, even though it does grow really, really well for me. It's just not one of my favorites to decorate with. So Statice is native to the Mediterranean. The botanical name is Limonium, which comes from the Greek word limon, which means grassland. I don't know about you, but I can picture just a beautiful meadow of Statice growing natively in the Mediterranean, and boy does that make me want to take a plane over to the Mediterranean. So knowing that this is grown in grasslands in the Mediterranean, that would tell us that these are pretty drought-tolerant flowers that definitely want the heat in order to bloom. They are not a picky plant. I find them very, very low maintenance. They are prolific bloomers and one of my favorites to add for a filler. And of course, using them as a dried flower just adds to the versatility of them. So some of my favorite ones to grow are the Johnny's Formula Mix, Apricot, Rose Shades, Forever Happy, which is a beautiful mix of pastels, and Seeker White. And I'll share with you in a minute which ones I'm going to be growing today. Like I said, the Seeker Blue is definitely not something I would grow again. Not that it wasn't super happy when it was growing and a prolific bloomer, like I said. It was just that harsh color that was just not as easy to pair with. But if that's the color you are going for, I would definitely suggest growing it, as it is an easy grower. So the ones I'm growing today are Apricot Beauty. I'll put a picture on the screen. Johnny's Pastel Mix. Again, a beautiful, beautiful collection of all the ones that you would want to grow anyway. QIS, which is Quality in Seed. Apricot. And then a new one to me is Pink Poker Statice. And this is really exciting for me because I struggle with celosia. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to find out why, but celosia doesn't grow very well for me, but Statice does. So I'm thinking this Pink Poker, very spiky texture instead of the flat cluster of flowers that Statice usually has. I think this will be a good alternative for me to grow. So I am starting these middle of March, which brings me just over 6 weeks to my last frost, which is about about May 1st. I am in zones 4 to 5, so depending on your last frost, adjust accordingly for when you are starting these. So my chosen method of seed starting is soil blocking. If you're interested in this, let me know and I can make a video about it. In short, it is very economical. Once you have the soil blocker mechanism, you're not needing to buy anything. I just reuse old produce or meat trays, and that seems to be fine for me. And it is efficient in space and it is efficient in time, just a no-brainer. And the seeds actually germinate very well and they grow very strong with this method as well. In short, that is why I love it. So let's start with Apricot Beauty. And I think this is an old seed packet, so I'm not sure how many of these I'll be growing, but in this container or in this tray right here, I have room for 80. I don't mind mixing different Statice because they probably will germinate at the same time, but I wouldn't recommend putting different varieties in one tray as I've dealt with that before. And then the germination happens at a different time and then you're left with a bit of a mess. Okay, so that is what the seeds look like. Not the tiniest seeds, that's for sure. And germination rate for me is pretty good, so I'll just be doing 1 seed per soil block. With most seeds, unless they're very large, I find surface sowing is fine. Most seeds do need light to germinate, so a light dusting of vermiculite will help with many different things, but also keeps the seed sort of in place, I find as well. A light dusting of vermiculite deters dampening off and any fungal or bacteria or mold issues as well. Okay, so that was Apricot Beauty. And there is our vermiculite. So So like I said, these need light to germinate. So I will leave this saran wrap on, put them underneath the lights, and they should germinate between 5 and 12 days. And the temperature needed in order to germinate these would be about 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 16 to 20 degrees Celsius. Okay, my next tray, again, I reuse a lot of these. This one fits about 120. I forget how many seeds I have in this one, but we'll take a look and see how many. Oh wow, those are tiny. So these ones are very different compared to the other one. You can see the seed is definitely smaller for this type. So when seeds are small like this, almost like a snapdragon, very, very, very tiny, I find surface sowing and broadcast sowing is my best bet because I'm more of an efficient gardener who doesn't like to take a tremendous amount of time to do things. But we all have our own methods. You can also wet the end of a toothpick and individually place them on the soil block in that method as well. I've never tried it, but I'm not the fussy type that wants to take a ton of time. Most seedlings can also be gently pricked out. If you have more than one germinating in a cube, you can gently prick it out and plant it again, which is also an option. Okay, so that was the whole container for the pink pokers. Okay, my last tray I will split between the pastel mix and the apricot. All right, I did about 2/3 of the tray the pastel mix, and the rest I'll do the apricot. All right, there we are. Like I said, we'll remove the plastic once I see about 80% germination on these. They will stay under the light as they need the light to germinate, and we should see some germination in about 5 to 12 days. So once your nighttime temperatures are about 10 degrees Celsius or about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, it is safe to plant these out. They can tolerate a light frost, but I don't find there's a benefit in growing these early in the season outdoors. I find waiting until my last frost is over, I don't find that there's a benefit planting them any sooner. So for planting them out, I would say 6-inch spacing is what works for me in a dry and hot climate. But if you live in a humid area, I would say definitely follow the seed packet and plant them about 9 to 12 inches apart. Netting is not required. They will naturally be very upright, strong, sturdy stems usually. Pinching is not required. They will naturally bush out and branch out as you harvest off of them. Regular harvesting or deadheading will ensure that you have blooms throughout the growing season until your first frost takes them out. Harvesting when all the blooms have opened on each of the tiny clusters is ideal, otherwise they will wilt in the vase. You can expect a vase life of 10 to 12 days and indefinitely when they are dried. The stems will rot when they are in the vase any longer, but the actual bloom will last indefinitely if you dry it upside down for a week or two. Harvesting these in the morning before the heat of the day comes is also recommended to ensure that they don't wilt as well. Planting these in full sun with deep, infrequent watering is recommended as they do not want their roots soggy at all. They are a very low maintenance plant. I would say fertilizing once a month with a low dose would be just fine. They are not heavy feeders, and your plants will reach up to 30 inches. In my experience, they get to be about 24 inches high, which is a little less than expected, but still plenty enough for a bouquet or a vase. Well, that wraps up our focus on Statice. Let me know what your favorite type is to grow, and also let me know if you've grown those pink pokers Statice type. I've never seen it before. I'm really excited to try it out. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.